Black Hat USA 2026, researchers described watching something unsettling happen in real time. Autonomous AI agents hitting a boundary mid-task, pausing to ask themselves, am I allowed to do this? And then reaching out to other agents to compare notes. There was no human in the loop. No one told them to do it. And it's happening every single week now. And it's one of the reasons the conversation you're about to hear feels less like a future tech briefing and more like a 5-alarm fire that most companies don't know is burning. Here's another one. A few days before this recording took place on site at Black Hat USA, Anthropic pointed an AI at Hawk, one of the newer algorithms being floated as quantum-proof encryption, and it found weaknesses in it. This is not a theory. It means the very algorithms that we're racing to adopt before quantum computers can break today's encryption are themselves getting broken by the same AI that's supposed to be the threat we're preparing for. So the clock is real. Earlier this year, IBM had a presentation at CES on quantum computing progress. The room filled so quickly that they had to shut the doors and turn people away. The U.S. government has already issued an executive order demanding federal agencies produce post-quantum migration plans within the next 120 days. The estimates now put quantum computing capable of breaking modern encryption at around 2029 or 2030. That's not science fiction. That's literally one product cycle away. This is a story about digital trust, the invisible infrastructure of keys and certificates holding together everything from power grids to your company's billing system, and why the smartest people in cybersecurity think we have maybe 3 years to get our house in order before the locks stop working. I'm Robert Vamosi. This is Error Code.
My name is Ellen Boehm, and I lead strategy and AI innovation at Keyfactor. And Keyfactor is a cybersecurity software company, and we focus on establishing digital trust and trust infrastructure for our customers.
Okay, I've done other Error Code podcasts talking about post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. Basically, there will come a point when quantum computers, which are emergent now, will be able to break the encryption we currently use. RSA, elliptical curve, etc. And so various governments have instituted dates by which systems have to be crypto-agile. What that means is that the systems can quickly change out their cryptography, and that we also have newer and better cryptographic standards that we can roll into their place.
So, especially in today's modern enterprises, we have a underlying trust infrastructure that connects multiple pieces of software, devices, humans into this hyper-connected network that relies on trust in order to operate securely. And the foundation of that trust and what we help provide is based in and rooted in public key infrastructure, PKI. And we use asymmetric cryptography to establish secure connections between all of these digital interactions. And it is so important that as an enterprise that you have that secure foundation upon which you are building everything inside of how your company runs.
At Black Hat USA 2026, you couldn't miss the emphasis on AI. Every vendor was talking about how their product could find rogue AI agents or use AI agents to defend their systems. One thing that escaped me was the potential role that AI models could play in breaking cryptography.
I think the emergence of AI and AI agents and these models that are being tested to work used by AI agents to work autonomously is going to accelerate the need for us to be PQC ready, because AI agents will be used to attack our systems, whether we tell them to or not. The whole be in a sandbox and stay there and play nicely. We have some really good examples in the news in the past 2 weeks. I think someone spoke about it at Black Hat here. it's happened. Like, and the agents are going out trying to get information, saying, am I allowed to do this? I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. Are we, like, and then they talk, and then they shared notes, and it's fascinating to me to read that. And that happens every single week. So we have this PQC topic that we've been talking about for years, and now we have this deadline that the whole quantum computing technology is still running along in parallel, and they're marching down this path. And then here's this emergence of these software agents that are able to think and act and do on their own. And that, I think, is just this new market force that we weren't maybe anticipating, but it's here, and it's elevating the need for us to get our trust infrastructure under control, right, and solid and resilient, and our organizations need to be agile.
So in the United States, NIST has come up with an initial list. I think there were originally 6 algorithms that they approved, but immediately 2 of them fell. So we were left with 4. I take it that this is going to be an ongoing process.
It is. It should be, because so MLDSA, which I mentioned, I think is one of the leading ones, is the recommended one. But at some point, something might happen with that. That might not be strong enough. So we need to continually be also researching in parallel about making better algorithms, stronger algorithms for the future. Because the whole point of crypto agility is that it's not just a one point in time. It's basically a mindset shift of being able to be crypto agile and dynamic throughout the life of your company or your environment. So yeah, so I think it's important for researchers to continue to do that. It's important for us to even use AI to test how strong that encryption is. I think there was a recent article about one of the latest algorithms, the Hawk one, which was tested by Anthropic, and they were able to find some weaknesses in it. So this happened like 5 days ago. So there's AI is being used to test and try to break some of this encryption right now from a researching perspective, which I think is good. It's a good thing. At the same time, though, we're teaching AI about what encryption is. So in any event.
From where Ellen sits, how close are these systems? Google comes out and says, we have so many qubits available, and IBM and other companies are like, we have so many qubits available as well. It's like, how close are we to having quantum breaking encryption devices at our fingertips or in the cloud for us to use?
I do think the 2029, 2030 estimates are probably real. I really do. I was at CES earlier this year. I was in the IBM presentation was a packed room. They had to shut the door and didn't let anyone else in. And they're making a lot of progress on that. And I do think, now is it going to be widespread, can break everything all right at once? No, but I think it is going to be, it's real. And I think it's going to happen sooner than we think.
Flip that around. How do you start a conversation with somebody that's not yet thinking about crypto agility and not yet thinking about post-quantum cryptography?
Yeah, so the conversation has to start with understanding how you secure the digital interactions in your company, and how if that breaks, then your business processes stop working. So whether it's your billing system, whether it's your customer support, whether it's your product development because they're writing code that needs to get pushed out to some new smart meters that you're selling for your company, all of those things require secure digital connections to access systems, to write and push code, and then so I think it becomes understand how your business runs and what are the critical pieces for what has to always be up. And then know that cryptography is likely underpinning all of those applications and environments and interactions. And then it's, okay, once we've decided that, then let's make sure that we know where they all exist, how they were created, especially in larger enterprises when you have some departments that might have spun up their own PKIs because they knew that they needed a certificate to make an application, but then that's this standalone thing that's not tied to the corporate policy, doesn't have any governance around it, and that can kind of run around undetected, but be a weak point to break when PQC, or when post-quantum computers are here, or if some hacker was able to get in and get one of those credentials and then infiltrate more into the rest of the company.
So maybe it's a ballpark estimate, but how much of a problem is rogue PKI?
I have heard stories from customers saying that they didn't know that some of this stuff existed until somebody came to them because they found them in the corporate directory and it said, you had PKI in your title and I need help with my PKI. And they're like, what are you doing? So it does happen because it is easy to stand up some of these things. Maybe an open source PKI, or I'm going to go get some free certificates here, or I can use an open, and in some cases that works for certain things. But when you're running production environments, you have critical business applications, you should be running that on trust infrastructure that is yours and that you own and that is tied to your company, and you're managing that root of trust in a really secure way.
So we talked about enterprises, obviously, but does Ellen work with infrastructure, critical infrastructure, such as hospital systems, water utilities, and things like that?
Yes. So from our perspective as a software vendor, we look at a company and an operation, and there are different requirements for critical infrastructure or OT environments, because a lot of times when you have physical hardware involved, whether it's a control system or whether it's some sort of sensing, switching, those systems have been around a really long time. And from an infrastructure perspective, we have to have that up and running all of the time. It's not to say that internal to an enterprise you can have things, you can have outages. That's not good either. But when you're running power and water and gas and critical things that the communities rely on, I think there's a different level of uptime requirements. So yes, I think our approach to that is understanding what architecture is currently in place, what type of security currently exists for more of those legacy systems, and then working to figure out what needs to be secured at what level. We've moved past the mentality of I'm going to have an offline power plant because that's secure, and now there's more, how do I get secure control systems or secure gateways at certain points within my operational environment to sort of segment down the network and then be able to protect the systems that are running inside of that operation.
So we talk a lot about legacy systems that have been running for 10 to 20 years, and they're designed to live that long. But here we are designing on old architecture. I'm wondering, is there some sort of security control? Is there something that can be put in place over those devices out in the field to keep them secure?
Yeah, not that Keyfactor offers. I from a vendor perspective, maybe there is some other company that's providing some kind of central, gateway system that does that, and then, that becomes that main orchestration point between, secure connections with the edge and devices in the environment. I think that's probably a good way to take a step forward before then. You don't have to switch everything out all at once. It's the same sort of thing. It's just now that you have these physical pieces in there that are running lines, or that they're doing, that are sensing and producing electricity and gas and things like that. So that has to always work.
Okay, so downtime is not always possible in some cases, but it has to be if you're going to be switching out these keys.
Yes, and I think that has been elevated as we have seen this executive order on PQC readiness come out in June. And there's implications, obviously, for the way that we have interpreted it as a vendor. Obviously, those that are federal agencies, but then those who maybe contract with agencies or adjacent spaces, like you were mentioning, with these critical infrastructure verticals that are going to need to follow these rules. And I don't know that they necessarily have that expertise in-house. One, that's why I think as a community we have to talk about this and share what can be done, and then also the funding, because if here's a deadline, but are there programs? There's an OMB memorandum that talks more about what to do, so that's good. But then there's, now we need millions of dollars to have people in programs and do the discovery and assessment, like I said, and do the issuance of this new crypto, like I said. So there's a lot of work to come, and you're right on with, we need to be putting plans in place right now. And I think there was also some dates in there that said that agencies, at least the federal agencies, need to have their plans in within 120 days of that OMB memo. So at least they are working towards it. But this, if outside of agencies themselves, if some of these critical industries have not started thinking, they should be looking at this a little bit more seriously now. Especially if you're a U.S. based company and you've read this executive order, it's real and it's coming.
So let's talk more about that executive order. Ellen mentioned that there are some dates in there, and oftentimes these are high level and don't have a lot of specifics.
Yeah, that's basically what we have seen as well. So more to come on it. So we've just seen the guidelines and the dates for 2030, I think, is one of the biggest milestones. And then it's basically come up with plans for crypto agility and for PQC algorithm migration, but then it's really it doesn't go any deeper than that. So that's where I think people like us need to help elevate the conversation. There's tools that we have around PQC readiness plans. There's lots of different ways to do it, but the key point is you have to start to come up with a plan, assigning a team, and then discovering what you have, and then figuring out how to rank and prioritize it.
So Alan just said that it's more computationally complex. Complex doesn't fall to the enterprise. That stuff happens in the cloud. It doesn't require people to have their own quantum computer generating trust.
Yes, it would require vendors. So talk to your vendors that are providing you their trust infrastructure and say, what is your PQC plan? Do you have products that already have PQC built in? Do I have the option to have something that is maybe hybrid? What do you recommend for readiness and migration? Because part of what we talk to our customers is you're not going to flip a switch and then do everything overnight. Firstly, you have to discover and find out where all of your assets and your cryptography exist. And likely they are embedded in lots of different environments. It could be in different servers, applications. It could be in somebody's source code. So you have to find that first. So discovery is step one. And then once you have discovered all of that, then you can start making plans about how to migrate. So we basically say you can't remediate what you don't know that you have. So start there if you don't have some sort of discovery capability that detects all of that, and then add context around each of those pieces of crypto about, are they attached to high value assets? Are they attached to a critical business system? And then come up with a plan of what would migrate first. And I don't want to break all the underlying things that have been connected to it. Then there's a sequence of operations.
So let's talk about the importance of key rotation. That once you've established trust, it's good to reinforce that periodically by regenerating.
Yeah, 100%. So the key element, or the key word perhaps, is dynamic. So we don't want something that is static, that is never changed, never rotated, because we know that over time we are getting smarter. AI agents are coming into play. We'll get into that, I'm sure. And there's this post-quantum computer that soon will be cryptographically relevant and able to break the encryption that we have today, that is in our certificates that we are using to create these secure connections. So we know that things are changing, so we have to have a more dynamic approach to being able to first issue strong dynamic credentials, but then the ability to rotate them, and that is called crypto agility. So having the ability to, in an autonomous way, provision something securely from that trust infrastructure that your company owns, and then be able to set a policy around how long should that live. And when do you want to rotate that credential? When do you want to revoke that credential? Or when do you want to remediate that credential if it potentially is something that is now based upon a weak cryptography or was a compromised key, and you need to swap that out. But this is a essential piece of digital infrastructure that is running your environment. You don't want that to go down. Or it's something that you're offering as a service to your customer, or it's embedded in a product that you sell to your customers. You don't want those to stop working, because then it becomes it really is a business issue. It's a business continuity challenge.
So Ellen just said parallel. Quantum generation of keys and all that works differently than AI agents that are consuming resources for other reasons and asking questions. They're very different technologies.
Yeah, I try to separate them, two separate different technologies. I think of quantum computing as a way to process things more quickly. I think of post-quantum cryptography as encryption and math that has been created to have a stronger connection that can't be broken by that post-quantum computer. And then I think of AI agents as pieces of software that are being written to do certain repetitive tasks. And the agents, when they are autonomous, are able to then learn, like think, learn, act, and start to communicate with other autonomous things and do something in an end-to-end manner where humans maybe only initiated the first step of I'm birthing you as an agent now, and I'm telling you to go do these things and then go do them, and then these are the constraints around it. And so it's very, very different tech.
So when I think of key rotation, I'm often just thinking about the issued hash. I'm not thinking about the algorithm that generated it. So with quantum computing and with quantum agility, we're actually talking about swapping out the actual algorithms. And that's one step up from where we were before.
Well, there's people a lot smarter than me that can go into the details of that. But from my understanding, it's the math that has been used to create these NIST standardized algorithms for encryption and digital signature have been tested for a long time, for many years. We've also been testing them. We've been building them into our products so that we can issue a post-quantum certificate with that is based around this new math. And so from what we've seen, that is, yes, I guess you could maybe relate it to how we migrated things in the past from like SHA-1 to SHA-2. It's kind of a similar, and I've heard my CTO talk about this, that took decades. So now if we're talking about migrating RSA or ECC, which is today's classical algorithms, pretty solid, right? But not when the PQC computer has that capability. So we're going to need to start being more ready for this swap out to MLDSA or some of these other algorithms that have been tested and chosen. They will have higher computational requirements. So I think that's another thing that people have to plan for, is that they are bigger, that it's not as small as some of these other, I used to work a lot more in IoT. We would talk about using ECC because you could get a smaller certificate and pack it inside of your circuit board, and that sort of thing. We'll have a little bit more challenges with the post-quantum crypto, but we'll get there because people are constantly working on that. I think Falcon is another alternative we're taking a look at, and there will be more. So the point really is that this is going to be an evolution. We have done crypto changes in the past. This is going to be another one of them. It's going to take a long time, and if the post-quantum relevant computer will be available in 2030 or 2029, or pick anybody. I've heard Google say things, and we've heard the U.S. government with the executive order. There's projections, but that's really only now 3 years away. And we have to be planning for this migration, knowing that in the past it's taken 10 years. So do the math, right?
We're going to be generating these keys faster to deal with the fact that AI can go in and poke holes in some of these new quantum models.
That's a great question. I hope so, and I think so. I think has been a global effort. So we have been part of that, like from a cryptography perspective. I mean, we have experts in Australia, and we work with teams in the UK, and then the US is involved. So the cryptography community is really intelligent, really smart, and they're thinking about these things, and they've been thinking about it since before time, it seems. So I think, yes, I think we've got really good, smart people focusing in on it. Yeah, an unknown is how to leverage AI as a tech instead of having it be a risk. So
I think we keep circling back to this idea of a crypto community. And these are researchers who are thinking about this all the time. Are they going to be doing this fast enough to stay ahead of everything?
I really do think so, because it's a large community with a lot of experience, and we're talking about AI as a piece of software. How much can it learn? And then just back to the controls around it. We have to use it in a safe way. It's like, would you give a kid a Swiss Army knife and not tell him how to open it and close it safely?
I'd like to thank Ellen for coming on the show and talking about the need for crypto agility today and how the next 3 years are going to happen really fast. And with parallel things going on in the AI models, we really need to double down on this ability to keep our crypto keys and key rotation happening fast enough to stay ahead. Hey, if you're enjoying Error Code, tell a friend. I'm sure there are other people out there who like narrative information security podcasts. And I'd really like to hear from you. Go to errorcodepodcast.com to get more details. And tell me what you like, and even what you don't. I've got some great episodes coming up. We'll have more on Volt Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, and hacking utilities supply chains. Subscribe today. I don't want you to miss out. So we're talking about trust infrastructure that goes beyond just humans. You also have device identity and whether those devices can be trusted on your network.